Welcome back into another episode of The Locker Room. I'm your host, Will Kronsberg, joined once again by Braden Maloy, and today we're going to be talking about the NBA preseason. Of course, we're just one day away from the start of the NBA regular season. The WNBA season ended just last night. Shout out to the Chicago Sky on winning their first championship. But moving back over to the NBA, we'll start off with some of the biggest storylines. And Braden, what has really intrigued you this offseason?
We got out there in LA, it's star power, man. I mean, they added Westbrook. Carmelo is there. LeBron's going to be healthy again. AD's going to be healthy then. That's going to be big. Warriors, another team out there in California. They're going to get Thompson back. They almost made the playoffs without Thompson, so that's going to be huge. Even in Phoenix, they're not in California, but they're in that warm weather climate. They're looking like a solid team. It's going to be fun out there in the West.
Well, the West, there's definitely a lot to focus on. Between Westbrook, between the Warriors, getting everything back together, the Suns looking to get back to the finals. But I also want to talk about the East. Two of the last three teams to make the finals out of the East, the Raptors and, of course,
the Bucks.
The Bucks, yes, thank you. The Raptors and the Bucks. Kyle Lowry goes from the Raptors to the Miami Heat, another team that recently made the finals. And I think there's a lot to focus on in the East. For a long time, they were looked at as the younger brother, sort of take a step down from the West, but they are a lot more right now. And we could see some good contenders out of the East. So who are you excited about there?
Yeah, I actually think this year, as opposed to previous years, like you mentioned, it is a more balanced league between the West and the East. There are a number of teams in each division that could make the finals. I mean, in the East, you got the Bucks, who just won it last year, returning their main cast. The Hawks, who nobody thought they were going to do what they did last year. They're returning 9 of their top 10 guys. The Nets with KD and Harden, maybe Kyrie, we don't know, we'll see. You mentioned Miami with Lowry and Jimmy Butler. The Bulls, they have a whole new lineup, Ball, DeRozan, Levine. I'm excited to see how that East shakes out. I think it's going to be more competitive when you get to see those cross-conference games. I think you're going to have some better games now.
Well, you talk about a competitive East, and what that means is every team needs to be at full strength. And every team needs to have all their playmakers, pending injuries, and the Nets don't have that right now. Like you mentioned, they have Harden, they have KD, they maybe have a LaMarcus Aldridge or Blake Griffin, a couple of, past their prime guys that can still contribute. But Kyrie Irving, not on the team. At first, they were talking about maybe he just doesn't play the home games or the games in New York or California, but now he's away from the team semi-permanently. Do you think he's holding back the team, or do you think he's, doing something that will matter in a few months?
I don't think he's holding back the team. I think this team, well, first and foremost, I think the Nets made the right decision. I don't think you could have a player show up here at some practice. He wouldn't be able to practice with the team unless they were on a road game. So I think that would have been such a distraction and such a lineup mistake to try to insert him here and there. So I think they made the right decision in saying, hey, we respect your decision, but this is our decision. This is going to do until we come to a mutual agreement. But I don't think he ruins the Nets' chances for a national championship, a NBA championship season. I think KD, he almost led them to the finals last year by himself. Now you add Harden, who had a full year basically a full year in the system. He's had a whole offseason with them. I expect him to come back kind of more in shape than he was last year. He's back to being happy to play basketball again. I think those two with the veterans like Aldridge, like Griffin, I know they're old, but I think they can still provide a solid base for that team, and I think they will go just as far without Kyrie as they could with Kyrie.
Well, even if Kyrie is not around, there'll still be some other good players in the East. We saw the Hawks and the Knicks sort of shoot out of a cannon last year, out of nowhere. We saw the Bucks, of course, take the whole NBA championship, despite of the Nets being in the same conference. And then we saw a team like Miami, who made the finals 2 years ago, kind of slide backwards. So Nets aside, who's really a big player in the East that could take advantage of this Kyrie-less team?
I think it's kind of the same teams we saw last year. Like we mentioned, the teams are more balanced, but both leagues, West and East, are still very top heavy. You get to the first 1 through 5, maybe 6. After that, the rest of the leagues, they're still either a one-man team or a no-man team and just kind of find something in the draft. So I still think it's the teams we saw last year in the Eastern Conference, Western Conference Finals, and the Finals were going to be the same teams we see again. So the Bucks, the Hawks, the Nets. I think in the East, you'll get more competitive games in the playoffs from like Miami, who's 1 year removed from the finals. They went to the bubble finals. I think adding Lowry there, Tyler Hero is going to have to get back to what he was in the bubble if they want a chance. I think the Bulls now are going to be maybe the most interesting team in the East. You have Lonzo Ball now with Zach LaVine. So you have one of the most willingest passers in the league throwing to one of the best dunkers in the league. That will be exciting. And you had DeRozan in there, who's a veteran. He's been there with the Spurs. He's a great mid-range shooter. He led this preseason in mid-range attempts this year, or this preseason. So I think they will be somebody to step up in the East.
Well, last note on the East is you mentioned finding somebody in the draft, and the Detroit Pistons did just that, sort of not by choice. They had the number 1 pick. They took Cade Cunningham out of Oklahoma State. Is he the rookie you're most excited about, or is there somebody else that you think can go and grab Rookie of the Year honors?
I like Cade. I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. I don't think he'll win. He'll lead the league in scoring. I don't think he can do that just quite yet this year, just because of the team he's on with Detroit. He's going to have to kind of be a Luka, kind of be like Luka is in Dallas. He's going to have to be that team, and so defenses are going to be able to scheme onto just him. But I do think he'll be able to put up points. He'll be in that top 10 scoring in the league. He'll be the point machine at Oklahoma State. So I think he will definitely be up there, and I think he'll be Rookie of the Year this year.
Well, I think that's really exciting. And you look at a rookie last year, and the Golden State Warriors, they picked very high in the draft 2 years in a row. Do you think that now they have Klay Thompson back, add that to Andrew Wiggins, to Curry, Draymond Green, and bring back Andre Iguodala, is that a team that can succeed in the West, or will it still be a battle of the Los Angeles teams and Phoenix?
I think that team will succeed. So far, this year with LA, with Kawhi going down, I think the Lakers might be the only team from LA that can get a strong postseason, but I think the Warriors, I actually have the Warriors, I think they'll go to the finals. I think they'll get back to maybe not the dominance of the 73-win teams or the championship teams they had with KD, but I think they'll be prominent in this league again. You watched them last year. They really only, Draymond Green was there, but he didn't score points. He was a facilitator. Curry's the one that scored points. He led the league in scoring. He carried that team to the play-in game and almost won. He almost took the team to the playoffs, just kind of a single man. So I think if you add in Thompson, who's supposed to be coming back around Christmas time, which it's not really that late in the season. We're starting, October. So I think you add back Thompson in. I think that offense gets back to that elite level offense. They have no rookies now anymore in their starting lineup, so they're getting more experience, getting veterans in there, getting people to have playing time. I think their defense certains up. I think Jordan Poole, he's going to be the unsung hero of this Warriors team as they make their run.
Jordan Poole, obviously a very high efficiency scorer last year to go along with Curry. James Wiseman on the back end. Is this a team, the Warriors, that will continue to rely on Curry, Thompson when he comes back, and maybe Draymond Green on the defensive side? Or can we start to see them integrate their younger stars, less reliance on guys like Andre Iguodala, who is back, and become a younger team, continue to move forward even as their stars age?
I think currently they're still going to have to rely on Curry and the Thompsons, just because, and it's not even so much relying on Curry. It's just that's how Curry is on the court. He's that guy when he steps on the court with the ball in his hands. He can just score. The things he does, nobody else in the league can do. But I think currently they need to have him and Thompson and Green and Iguodala still shoulder a lot of the load. But if they want to get back to being a perennial playoff team and competing for championships, they're going to have to shift the balance towards a Wiseman, towards a Poole, towards a Wiggins, to just allow them to continue on in the future.
And one more team that we brought up in the West, you mentioned a few moments ago, the Suns. Obviously, they just made the finals. They have a high efficiency scorer of their own in Devin Booker, as well as a slightly aging star in Chris Paul, and obviously #1 overall pick from a few years ago, DeAndre Ayton. So will the Suns be able to make it back, or were they more of a one-hit wonder in the West?
I don't think they'll make it back this year like they were last year. You mentioned Paul. I like Booker and I like Ayton, but really unlike the Warriors, their vet star, Paul, as he's grown on, he is not quite as efficient or elite of a scorer as he used to be. In the finals last year, for games and stretches in games at times, he would disappear and not really provide the team anything. So I think I still think with him leading the team and running the on point and being the main ball handler, I just don't think with all the other teams coming on and the pieces they're putting together, I don't think the Suns can make that run like they did last year. I think once they get to a spot where they can move on from Chris Paul, get a little younger, I think then they'll get back to competing for championships.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot to be excited about. It could be the same teams in the finals. They both look strong. A couple other teams with some former MVPs surging back. There's a lot to be excited about when the NBA season kicks off tomorrow. But for right now, that'll do it for us on The Locker Room. For Braden Maloy, I'm Will Kronsberg. Thank you so much for joining us.